It's herb seed starting time. Hi everyone, it's time for us to talk about starting herbs from seed for this upcoming season. Hello everyone and welcome to Kim's Cozy Corner. Y'all, I am just itching to get started this year and I just want to start something. Now we are in January, so it's still a little bit early for Zone 6 Southwest Ohio, but y'all, I want to start something. So I was looking into all of my different seeds that I have out there and I wanted to know what could I start now super early and have a decent sized plant when it's time to go out in the garden, or maybe we can use it in an indoor garden space. So I decided I am going to go ahead and work on some of my herbs. Typically, herbs take quite a while to germinate and get big enough to transplant if you are not going to sow from seed. So I'm going to share with you today the different herbs that we'll be starting at Kim's Cozy Corner. And y'all, there are hundreds of other herbs out there, but these are the ones that we are starting. So y'all know me, I went and did my research. I pulled out all of my different herbs. I looked at when I needed to start them. I pulled out my seed starting journal that I'm going to use this year. This is volume 3 that I'm using this year. You don't have to have the seed starting journal. This is what I use to make it easier for me. Links are below if you're interested. So I put all of my herbs in my garden plan, right here in the garden plan. I put 25. This is 26, y'all. I need to change all of these dates to 26. Ooh, y'all, I got to get used to writing this new year that we're in. So I did my research, trying to understand the differences in the plants that I'm going to grow, as well as what are kind of some of the standard things about that particular plant. So one of the first things that I want to talk about are two plants that don't transplant very well, and it is best to start them from seeds, but I am going to start them from, I'm gonna start transplants inside anyway and put plants outside, but they don't transplant very well. So the first one that I'm gonna start is cilantro. There it is, just basic old cilantro. There's nothing special about it. For the cilantro, going to my little list here, and for those who don't know, if you eat the green part of cilantro, that's cilantro. But if you wait and harvest the seeds, so after it goes to seed and you harvest the seeds, that's coriander. And you use coriander in cooking just like you use cilantro in cooking. Cilantro is a cool season crop. It doesn't last very well when it gets super hot out there. There are many different varieties out there. Some of them are called slow boat cilantro, and I've grown that before. I just don't have any, and I don't want to buy any seeds. I'm going to just buy this or grow this basic old cilantro. Days to harvest is roughly 60 days, but you can harvest cilantro at any height. As soon as they get big enough, harvest and just keep it coming. Again, when it gets super warm, it's probably going to bolt. So if you're trying to grow cilantro in the heat of summer, you might want to protect it from the hot evening sun. It needs partial to full sun, so at least 6+ hours of sun. That's cilantro. Preferably, direct sowing from seed is recommended, but we're going to sow some anyway. The next one is parsley. Parsley is the other one that it says is recommended to grow from seed, but we're going to grow it anyway. For parsley, and I know I have that on here, you can put parsley outside about 5 weeks. You can start it outside about 5 weeks before the last frost, about 5 weeks. Now, parsley takes a minute to germinate, about 13 days, so about 2 weeks to germinate. So if I put it out 5 weeks before the last frost, 2 of them weeks is just going to work on germination, And now I'm down to 3 weeks before the last frost, and most likely you're not having frost every day. And parsley can stand a light frost. Oh, ideal temperatures to grow parsley is anywhere from 40 to 80 degrees Fahrenheit. And y'all, I don't know what that is in Celsius. It grows well at 40 degrees, so that's why you can put it out so many weeks before the last frost. Now for the parsley, I'm growing two kinds of parsley. I'm growing an Italian parsley. Let's see here. Here's a good picture of one where they're really big, flat leaves. And that one, in my mind, is easier to dehydrate because I can get the stems off of it and that kind of stuff. So I'm going to grow that one, and I'm going to grow, which is an Italian parsley, by the way, and I'm going to grow a triple curl parsley. So the curly parsley that you usually see as garnishing and that kind of stuff in your meals. But y'all, it tastes like parsley. It's still very, very good. And so when I dehydrate both of these together. So when I am cooking from my dried parsley, it's a combination of these two together. And I always grow at least one flat parsley and one curly parsley. That's parsley. Let's move on. These are not in any order. They were in order. They're just not in order anymore. The next herb we're going to talk about is sage. There's my sage right there. Y'all, I just picked these up from the grocery store. These are nothing special. These are Burpee seeds that you can get from the big box stores, the grocery stores, right? They're pretty much, you can get them anywhere. Sage is a perennial, y'all. It is a perennial in zones 5 through 8. And y'all, I'm in zone 6, and I have the most amazing big sage plant outside. I don't need any more sage, but I do sell my transplants. So that's why we're going to start some sage. You want to start your seeds about 10 weeks before your last frost in order to get the plants big enough to put them out into your outdoor garden. There's many different kinds of sage. This just happens to be the one that I have. Another herb that we're starting, and we've already talked about it, is basil. And I think it's a Genovese basil that we started already. Let me double check myself. It is. Here's a picture of it. It's the basil that we're going to put in the one GreenStalk that has my seed bundle from GreenStalk. So I'm not talking about basil right now, but let's not forget about basil. Basil is already in the bunch. It's already growing already in my seed starting kit from GreenStalk. The next one we're going to talk about is rosemary. Now, I have a problem with rosemary. I just need to let you know that right now. You need to start rosemary about 10 weeks before your last frost. So you notice everything I'm starting is in that 10-week time frame before your last frost. And typically I start these at the end of January. I'm starting them early just because, y'all, I want something to grow. But the problem I have with rosemary. So here's rosemary. I can't remember if I showed it to you or not. This is just basic old rosemary as well. The problem I have is that, y'all, I don't have any. The seed pack is empty. I have 0 rosemary seeds. I tried to squeeze one out. There's none in there. So I'm going to have to buy rosemary. I'm going to have to buy it. So I need to start it. I can't start it. It's a perennial as well in zones 8 through 10. I am in zone 6, but my rosemary comes back every year in my neighbor's garden. So we do have rosemary that comes back every year. Don't look so great, y'all. It's not the best looking rosemary. So that's why we're going to start some new, and we're going to start some for our seed sale, our plant sale. Next, we are going to talk about thyme. Thyme is a perennial plant. It's already growing outside in my garden. I really don't need another plant, but it's perennial from zones 5 through 9. It doesn't need to be started as early as like the sage, the rosemary, and some of those other ones. It still needs a good 6 to 8 weeks before your last frost to put it out. Now, these plants are all cool season crops I'm talking about. All of them are. But if you try to put the teeny little transplant out and you get a big heavy frost, y'all, it can't handle it. So that's why you want a decent sized plant when you're transplanting it out. Here's the thyme. I think this is English thyme. It is that we're going to be starting. Thyme is deer resistant. And I thought that was interesting to know that it's deer resistant. So I had some people say, hey, what can I grow that's going to keep the deer away? Onion is one of those things that you can grow that'll keep the deer away. Marigolds, the flower, marigolds will also keep pests away, especially because of the smell of a marigold. A lot of the animals and the rodents out there don't like the smell of it. And now thyme is another one that will keep at least the deer away. So it's deer resistant. We are also going to do oregano. And again, y'all, I don't have any fancy seeds when it comes to my herbs. And my seeds last a very long time. I mean, a long, long time. I just finished my rosemary seeds and they're dated 2021 and they didn't germinate so well last year. Your seeds are usually good for more than 1 year. The only thing is the germination rate decreases the older the seeds get. So just knowing that, you can still keep using off of the seeds. Like this seed, well, this is not an old seed pack, but this one's dated for the 2025 season. So I got this one last year. So this one's fairly new. I shouldn't have a problem with germination for my oregano. For oregano, it enjoys temperatures at 45 degrees or above. Cool season crop. Remember what I said, cool season crop. Everything that I've just mentioned is a cool season crop. It can handle a light frost. Heavy frost, it might struggle a little bit with, but a light frost, you should be fine. Even if it's a heavy frost and it's only for 1 day, you might be okay. I am also going to grow, I might not be growing. Is there anything in there? There's something in there. So I'm also going to grow sweet marjoram. Sweet marjoram. It's very similar to oregano, the way the plant looks when it's growing, but it's sweeter if I remember correctly. Oh, by the way, it's a perennial as well. So annual means it's going to die every year. You're going to have to replace it every year. Perennial means that once you have a strong established plant, it's going to come back every year. As long as it's strong and established. Now, don't get me wrong, you might lose a plant here or there, but it should come back every year if you live in the right temperature zones. So sweet marjoram, it looks a lot like the oregano, like I said, but it's more fragrant, and it has a more sweetness to it. So it does put me in the mind of oregano a little bit. It's good for roasted meats, salad soups, casseroles, and it's used to make teas and jelly. Marjoram is like thyme. You only need 6 to 8 weeks before your last frost. So I'm starting super early, but we can get a bigger, more established plant to put out. That's not a bad thing on some things. There are certain things you don't want to get long and leggy indoors, but these are not those things. The next herb that I'm going to grow, and y'all, and like I said, there are so many more herbs out there, y'all. There's so many. But this is the last one that I'm going to have in my bunch. So years ago, I used to grow a little bit of everything. I tried to grow cumin and cumin, or how do you say cumin? Cumin? Yeah, cumin. I have those seeds as well. I'm not growing them this year because we don't use that much of it. And I didn't want it taking up space in the garden when I could plant something else in that spot. So I'm only growing the herbs that I really use a lot of, so I don't have to buy that expensive stuff from the grocery store. We're going to preserve them ourselves so we don't have to buy it. So the next one that I'm going to grow, and this is the first season that I'm growing it, we are going to grow lavender. And lavender, y'all, is a perennial as well in zones 6 through 9. Now, lavender, I don't know if it's a cool season crop or a warm season crop. I'm going to have to look into this one a little bit. Well, if it's perennial, it's got to be able to take the frost. So it has to be a cool season crop as long as you have a big enough plant that's established. It has to be. In order to be perennial, it's got to be able to take some cold weather. So I'm going to say it's a cool season crop. That's what I'm saying about lavender. If I'm wrong, y'all, I apologize, but this is my thought process on lavender. It needs at least 6 hours of sun a day, so partial to full sun. And I'm growing two different types of lavender. So the first one I'm going to grow is English lavender, which is this one right here. It's a bigger lavender plant. You know, you can only put like one plant in a 1 foot square if you're using the square foot garden method. I just want it because it's going to bring in the beneficial insects, and it's going to smell good too while it's at it. And I have a couple really cool places that I want to put my lavender. It's good for like flower bed borders and that kind of stuff. But this is the standard size. It can get up to 30 inches tall. We are also going to grow the Munstead lavender. This one is a little smaller. It's compact, and you can put like two plants in a 1 foot square. That's how compact it is. So instead of getting wide and bushy, it looks like it's going to go more narrow and straight up, and they can get up to 18 inches tall versus 30. So I'm super excited about the lavender. It says you can harvest at 90 days, but for me, I just want it because I want it to bring in those beneficial insects. That's all I want it for. Now, I might harvest a little bit and dry it, but those are the two different lavenders right there. Now, there's one other thing that I'm putting with my herb seeds. It's not really an herb, but it is to me, the way I use it, because we don't use it for fresh eating. I only cook with it, and that's celery. So celery is a cool season crop. You find a good spot in your garden for celery and it will not disappoint. You need to start it 8 to 12 weeks before your last frost. So in my book, I'm starting it now. I'm starting it with my herb seeds. And I've always done that because it takes a minute for them to get big enough to do anything with it. And so I'm going to start them, and then I'm going to have to up pot them a couple of times because they got to get big enough for me to transplant into a bigger container. I'm growing two different kinds. I'm growing the Utah, which is this one right here. It says the stalks can reach a foot or more. And it's a little bushier, if I remember correctly. Yes, it gets kind of bushy if you let it. But the way I grow my celery, once it's getting big enough for fresh eating, and I grow this at my neighbor's house because they do eat celery for fresh eating. I don't. And then you just harvest one or two stalks on the outside at a time, and it'll keep putting on more. So it's like a cut and come again, like lettuce, right? So that's the real big one, Utah celery. That's the big one. And then I'm also going to grow this other one here. And this is the one that have been growing for the last 3 years or so. This one's a little more compact, where I'm only supposed to put one every 2 feet, which means one per square foot. This one I can put every 10 inches, so just under a foot. So it's a little more narrow. And this is what I've traditionally grown, but this Utah is what a lot of people know when you go into the grocery store and that kind of stuff. So we're going to grow both varieties. I am finally working down my celery supply from 2 years ago, 3 years ago. I've lost count now, 2 or 3 years ago. I'm working that supply down. So I am going to need more frozen cut celery for cooking. And I still don't need to dehydrate or freeze dry any, but I need some for that fresh cooking. The same way I chop up my onions and freeze them when I'm ready to cook, I pull them out and I cook with them. I need to do that with celery. So those are the seeds that we are going to start. Those are our herbs for the year. And most of them needs anywhere from 6 to 12 weeks before the last frost to grow, to get big enough to transplant out. So those are the ones that we're working on. I've already put them in my garden journal saying that I'm going to start them today. I sure did. I put them all in there. Everything except for the rosemary. I got to buy some plants. I am going to use my GreenStalk seed starting station. Y'all, I said I had a green one. Y'all, it's not green. It's black. Here's my black seed starting station right here. I said it was green, y'all. I messed up, y'all. It is not green. Now, there are many different ways to start your seeds indoor. I start mine indoor in a grow tent. That's how I start mine. You don't have to. You can start on a windowsill. You can start in a greenhouse. You can start in many different places as long as you're getting the proper amount of warmth, because they're not going to grow when it's 20 below outside. And you're getting enough sunlight. The sun is warmer in the evening is what I'm trying to say. And that warmer evening sun always helps my plants, so I prefer that. So this is the seed starting kit that we're going to be using from GreenStalk today. And I've removed the domes off of my blueberry one because everything's germinated. You'll get to see it in the next weekly update, which is coming really soon. So we will reuse the domes for this one. Y'all, I have never cared too much about putting domes on my seedlings when I start. But y'all, I'm gonna have to rethink that. I'm gonna have to rethink it, y'all, because those things germinated so fast, and I didn't have to keep worrying about them drying out and messing my seeds up. So I have a very different perspective on whether or not you should put domes over your seedlings or not. I am changing my position, and everybody has the right to do that, right? We live and we learn, right? We live and we learn, and then we do better. Anywhere I can, I'm going to be using some type of dome on my young seedlings. And if you don't have a dome, y'all, I've seen people use like clear plastic wrap, anything to try to keep that moisture inside. And I'm going to do the exact same thing where I don't have domes. So you're going to see something different this year from Kim's Cozy Corner. I'm going to go ahead and get these seeds started. And all of these seeds, if you don't know how deep to plant your seeds, y'all, don't get stressed out, y'all. Don't get stressed out. Just read your seed pack. This seed pack for cilantro says plant 1/4 of an inch deep. I think that's simple enough to follow, right? It says 1/4 of an inch. And I'm doing 3 cells of cilantro because I think I saved one for rosemary, I think is what I did. Yes, that's what I did. I filled everything up with Happy Frog. I did not sterilize this batch of Happy Frog just because, y'all, I was lazy. It's up to you whether you want to sterilize or not. I was just lazy and I didn't do it. But we're going to put, since these look like little tiers of green stalks, I'm going to put one in every other little pocket. That's what I'm going to do. That way I know they're not on top of each other. So it's going to be 3 in each one. Now these GreenStalk seed starting stations are larger than some of the other ones that I use. I used to just start them all in a very dense format, and then after it germinates, I would up pot it. But if y'all have seen my travel schedule, y'all know that's not going to work for me in these upcoming seasons because y'all, did I put some in all of them? I don't see it. Y'all, I might be putting this in here twice, talking and not paying attention. Let me put these back. But with my travel schedule, y'all, I might not have as much time to transplant and do some of those other things that I normally do. So I'm going to need them to stay in their little homes as long as possible. I don't have a lot of time for up potting. So that's where we are, y'all. I've already moistened the soil and everything, y'all. So I'm not going to need to spray the tops of these or anything like that. They are already super wet. And I probably need to pour some more water out the bottom. There's probably still a ton of water down there. It is. So we're going to have to pour the water off of this before we call it good. So let me get these seeds in here. Some of these seeds are surface sow. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Which ones are they? Just so I can give you an idea. I think the celery is a surface sow seed. In other words, you just put it right on top and you kind of just pat it down. And what is the other one? I thought there was another one. Lavender. So those two, you don't need to bury deep at all. You just lay it right on the top and kind of pat it down. Parsley seeds are tiny. Since they're tiny little seeds, I'm not going to be able to do it like I did the cilantro where I put one in every corner. Now I'm going to have to just drop it in and hope. that they like where they fall. So let me finish sowing these seeds. I will bring you back if I have something that's earth shattering that I think about, but I don't want to hold you up on something as simple as this. Okay, all of the seeds are in. I'm just closing them back up so they don't spill. And y'all don't fret. I'm still going to do what seeds I'm starting for this season. I just won't do it for onion and I won't do it for the herbs, but I'll do it for all of the other vegetables, including the tomatoes, the peppers, the cabbage, broccoli, all of those type things. But anyway, I got the seeds in, y'all. We're going to put our little seed domes on because everything's already super wet. There's no reason for me to spray the tops. But if it wasn't super wet, y'all, we'll do like this. We'll spray the tops all the way across, just like this. I don't need to do it. They're already soaked. We'll put our little domes back on. And I've been starting my seedlings that with the dome on it right here on the table. I pull one of my lights, one of my LED lights right over them. That comes on and goes off every 12 to 16 hours or so. Once I don't need the domes anymore, then I move it over into the grow tent. At least that's what I did on the last batch. So that's what we're going to do on this batch as well. Now, I had some people ask me about the last video where I started seeds, which would have been the onion seeds. So if you haven't seen that one yet and you're interested, that one is out there on how to start onion seeds. They're super easy, y'all. It does take a while though, but it's super easy to do. I will be doing videos so you can come along with me to see how things are growing, to see what it looks like as it's starting to break ground, what a true leaf is, which you're not going to see on the onion, but you'll see on other things, and when to water, right? So start your seeds with me. Or if you've already done it, great. But if you're trying to learn how to do, you can grow with me. We don't want the soil to dry out. Keep that soil nice and dark. When it gets a light brown, then you need to water. But don't let it sit in water like these are right now. All this water in here, y'all, it is full of water. And this water has been in here probably about 45 minutes. I didn't have seeds or anything in here yet. I just put the seeds in. So we're going to pour this water off before I call it quits for the day over here. If your seed starting station is cool, you might need to get you a heat mat. There are many different heat mats out there. I got this one a long time ago. It'll be in the link down below, but it'll give you an idea, at least mine does, gives you a chart on how long it takes things to germinate, ideal temperatures for germination, which is anywhere from 70 to 85 degrees, according to this one, but they come in all different shapes and sizes. The one I have comes with a temperature control on it. So it'll keep the seedlings to whatever temperature you set it to. So I just wanted to show that. I don't use it because my grow tent, I used to use it all the time, but my grow tent now, it stays plenty warm, if not too warm. I don't really use it anymore. If anything, I'm trying to cool it down. Y'all, I should have did this before I got to this point, but I didn't. So here we are, making a mess. I don't believe in being wasteful though. So all this extra water, y'all, I'm going to use it in another spot somewhere in my garden. So it's not going to waste. Not at all. So for those who are new to my channel, this is my grow room. I have a 4x8 grow tent right here behind me. We'll pan inside in just a moment. And then I have my little table over here where I'm starting seeds. Here's my little light. See, I just put the light right over the little seedlings right here. Let me turn it off so you can see right quick. I was using that light to light the area, but now I'm going to put it over the little seedlings here. It'll turn on and off for 12 hours at a time, so it'll be on a timer. I probably won't have to water this for at least a week, So here they are right here doing what they need to do. Now let's take a look at the grow tent. So this room is actually extremely dark. It's got two pitiful little lights up here. And so I usually use the light from the grow tent to kind of light up this room, but I closed it today. So and this grow tent has no openings for light unless you open windows and things like that. But I didn't close it all the way. Let's open it up real quick here so you can kind of see what's going on inside. And this is really just new for those who are new to the channel. For all of my regular folks, we're going to do a full garden update here in just a moment. Now, I can't keep this grow space closed up for very long because it gets very warm in here. Now, this Vivosun, however you say it, grow tent can come with the carbon filters and all of that kind of stuff. I didn't purchase it because I don't have any weird smells coming out of my tent unless you think the smell of a piece of lettuce or a cucumber or a tomato smells weird. I didn't buy that kit, so don't let them trick you into buying all of that. You don't necessarily need all of that. You do need airflow. And so I have 3 little bitty fans in here moving the air around. And with all of the lights in here, it can get very warm. So you have to keep that air moving. I have GreenStalks in here, 2 of them. I have a container in here with, you might not even be able to see the container. That might be a little better. But I have a container in here with potatoes in it, 2 GreenStalks growing lettuce, cucumbers, beans, and tomatoes and peppers. And then I have a couple seed starting stations already set up and going. And that will be the next update on the indoor grow space. Next video. So I hope you enjoyed the video with me today. Starting some herbs, getting ready for this upcoming season, y'all. I'm just impatient and I wanted to grow something. So until the next time, and I hope you will join me next time at Kim's Cozy Corner. Talk to you again real soon. Bye.